Oseo.
Oseo.
Wonderful. It's a Cherokee greeting. We're here in February and it's very warm here. And I'm starting right off with this letter. I have introduced here in my Coyote Talks the past couple of weeks Representative Deb Haaland of New Mexico. And she's been nominated by President Biden for the Secretary of the Department of Interior. And that nomination is being confirmed, in 2 days, on Tuesday it will be. And I have here a letter that we have already sent, to, the committee in support of her, and that's what I'm going to read. The gist of the letter, not every line. But then go over here, the camera, go over here to her picture. This is my most favorite picture of her. I have the formal one that I've showed you last week that I regularly, sage her picture. And here, this one is with her native dress on, albeit she's wearing a jacket on a cold day in Washington, and the eagle feather is there with her. So the camera will stay on her picture while I read this letter. It's titled, National Tribal Leader Letter in Support of Representative Deb Haaland's Nomination. After passage in committee, this letter will be sent to Senate leadership. So the letter starts. Dear Chairman and Ranking Member and members of the Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources, as elected leaders of sovereign First Nations across the United States, we write in support of the confirmation of Representative Deb Haaland as Secretary of the Department of Interior. She is a citizen of the Pueblo Laguna, a 35-generation New Mexican, and one of the first Native women to serve in the House of Representatives. She is immensely qualified to serve our country as the 54th Secretary of the Interior. The letter goes on. The United States must uphold its responsibility to First Nations, honor its treaties, and provide a voice for Indian country in the federal government. It is with this responsibility in mind that we urge you to consider and confirm President Biden's nomination of Deb Haaland to lead the Department of Interior. And again, the U.S. Department of Interior carries out a broad range of responsibilities, including the management of public lands, water resources, minerals, wildlife management, and cultural heritage preservation. Additionally, it is entrusted with upholding the federal trust and treaty responsibilities to the 574 First Nations and more than 5.5 million Native Americans. The day-to-day decisions of the Department of Interior impact all aspects of sovereignty and self-governance, from education to economic development and to law enforcement. It is time that the Interior's leaders finally include a voice from the community whose lives it impacts. In the 116th Congress, Representative Haaland has introduced more bills with bipartisan cooperation than any other freshman legislator in 2019. So there are several lines of her accomplishments. And this one in particular brings us right up to also Deb Haaland has helped ensure tribal inclusion in the COVID-19 emergency relief legislation in a non-partisan manner. As a Native woman, she is a daughter of people who have managed and cared for our lands since time immemorial. She understands deeply that these landscapes are integral to sustaining communities and cultures. It is our honor to support Representative Haaland in this historic role, and we ask for her consideration and confirmation as Interior Secretary. Signed sincerely, Carlos Warner, Native American artist and member of Cherokee Wolf Clan. So we do hope that the confirmation will go through. There are Republican senators who are in the interest of the oil companies who, are not in favor of it, but we'll definitely see how it goes. And I am here putting my confirmation, to it. I confirm it like that. So there's a lot to be said for it. So my theme here today is going to be her, and also of the people that we call the Pueblo people of the Southwest. Just a year ago, February, I'm showing this is from the Reno Gazette. 32 women were elected to the state legislature. And this happened all across the country. So many women have come into government offices through the past year and up into this year also. Reportedly, of 80 positions open this year, 72 have been entered by Native Americans. I'm not sure how many are women, but that's part of it. And also, to just look over here, as I have this picture here to represent all of that. This is Kimberly Tehe, and she's a representative and a delegate of the Cherokee Nation. So she's representing all of these others here in my talk. And here, early on, way back in almost 2 years ago, a year and a half, I guess, I had presented this on Coyote Talks. And this one is where Deb Haaland is endorsing Elizabeth Warren here. Elizabeth Warren is a person who has Cherokee ancestry, and that she has come into as a support for Native American interests. Hope you got that picture all right. Also now in February, we call this is the month of the Iglets. However, the name actually is Atzabias. The name Iglets, is actually coming from an older and earlier kind of calendar. But here in Native America, Atzabias actually says the son of her. But you have to emphasize that. And so here I have this little eagle shield to represent that, the eagle. And also that the constellation, or we call Big Feather for this month, is the rabbit constellation. It actually is the Scorpio tail constellation that's called the rabbit's tracks. And with that, I have entered it in as energy, the rabbit's energy. So now we can go over here, and this is representing Earth Woman. She's on standby right now, and she's holding this little animal here, and it's called Setula. Setula means little sow, and that is her attribute. And she also would represent either the harvest or the 5 seasons of the year. Above her here, this is a medicine wheel for the rabbit constellation. And there's tiny agates woven in there. This is rabbit fur and the agates that would represent the stars for that. There is actually a rabbit constellation that is located somewhere between Taurus as a constellation and the constellation of Orion. Somewhere in there is the rabbit constellation. Now with this emphasis or interest, with the Pueblos, I want to show you this. This is a bowl. This is from Isleta or Laguna Pueblo. And it's very old. It's 1870 or 1880. There are no Pueblo pottery older than that. This evidently was due to the oppression of the Spaniards, which ended in 1848. So this is very old. I have kept it filled with pinto beans, so we keep it in good shape. And I'm also going to read a poem by the poet Paula Gun Allen, who is also from Laguna Pueblo, as is Deb Haaland. And that's why I'm presenting it in this way. This is her poem. Woman anew. Some make pottery, some weave and spin. Remember the woman, celebrate. Webs and making out of one's own flesh, earth, bowl and urn to hold water, and ground corn. Clay pots balanced on women's heads, water lifted and rivers in her eyes. Brown hands shaping earth into earth, food for bodies, water for fields. They used broken fragments of old pots for grog, clay bits to make new. Mixed with fresh clay, it makes strong bowls and jars new. She brought light. We remember this as we make the water bowl. Lots of old pots, pieces on the earth, marks the grandmother's gravesite. So that she helps us to shape clay for water, for bowls, for food, for bodies. And we, while drinking and eating, we think thankfully of her. Yes, there. Here. Now we can come up here to this part of my display. Recently, the trial impeachment, that business that was a few weeks ago, it was said at least 2 times, America is the pole star of the world. So I'm taking an interest in that because all that I feel is changing and shifting. This year, 2021, predictably, it was predicted that the pole star, Polaris, will line up with the North Pole, the axis of the Earth, that this is as close as the star, and that will come in alignment like that. In Native America, that Polaris is called the North Fire. And so if you can go up here, that's what I have up here, the North Fire. It's also called the Igniter star. So the view that other stars are crystals, the Igniter star is what is igniting all of the stars. So that's very significant here, and that's why I have that here. And here, this piece here, I have had for more than 50 years. I have gotten it from the Pueblo of Zuni. And so my first interest in putting it up here is the interest in the Pueblos, since Deb Haaland is of the Laguna Pueblo. So we're saying something of the Pueblos. The Pueblos are, well, they're villages, but they've been formed very particular. They are got to be 1,000 or more years old, maybe as old as 1,500 years, like that. People in these villages like that, these villages have governments, they have different languages. Now the name Zuni is not a word or name in the Zuni language. The Spanish have applied it. Actually, it is coming from one of the other pueblos. Like the Spanish were looking for this particular pueblo, this town, to attack it. And they asked somebody where it was, and they say, Zuni, mean it's over there. That's how it got the name and so forth. There's really a lot to it. And this piece here, a young woman's headdress, looks like a butterfly headdress. But because it's from Zuni, it's actually a bee. That's what this is. This is a bee. And that is because that these people, Zuni, whose name for themselves is actually Ashui, which is actually the Egyptian name for the Libyans, which means the travelers or the wayfarers. And that indeed is who they are, or who they have descended from, and since they still use that same name. Who they were in Libya, in the very northwest corner, almost right across from Spain, in the Zerzura Mountains, they are the people of the goddess of the Sibyl. Cabell is what they were called, like that. And that they have maintained that. Now, the goddess, Sibyl or Cabell, her symbols are the bee and the lion. And here, in the vicinity of the Pueblo we're calling Zuni, there is a shrine of stone lions. There are two lions side by side, and they're circled by many, many deer antlers circle them, and it's in a kind of a rock cove like that. So because of that, this is a bee rather than a butterfly. The place that we're referring to with the common name of Zuni is Halona Itiwana, which means the center place. And there was 6 of these villages. They are now all consolidated into one. But back in the 16th century is the time that you have a Spanish pirate coming up from Mexico with his army that arrived on the summer solstice when these people were in their ceremonies, and he attacked these people. Now the village that he attacked was actually called Hawiku. Hawiku actually means house of the goddess. So it's very interesting and very particular to my including it in my theme here. The biblical name that everybody is pronounced Eve, like Adam and Eve, is really mispronouncing, the Awa. Awa is really who she is. Now, Hay is the universal Mediterranean name for the goddess of life. The Cherokees have also inherited, I believe, from the Phoenicians, something of this Semitic language. My grandmother is one of them. She referred to herself as, I am a reed. Now, Hea is the Cherokee name. So in Cherokee, she said, Aya Hea. So when you hear in our songs, Hea, 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 we are singing the name of the goddess of life, Hea, that way. So that says something of, to me, the significance and why I have this piece displayed here in my layout. Well, chiefly to have something of the Pueblo culture and civilization. Oh, I should say here, this piece here, this is Hopi, this is Crow Mother. So we have another mother in here, and interesting, she has descended from Athena. Just leave it at that. Now, I'm going to read to you a Cherokee piece to go with this theme. And if you can, well, first, look here. This is a turtle or tortoise. And for one, it stands for universally now Turtle Island. That is our country, Turtle Island. But it's also a tortoise in the piece I'm going to read. And this here, you can focus on this piece while I read this. Cherokee birthing charm. In the house with the tortoise chair, she will give birth to the pearl, to the beautiful feather. In the house of the goddess who sits on a tortoise, she will give birth to the necklace of pearls, the beautiful feathers that we are. There she sits on the tortoise, swelling to give us birth. On your way, child, be on your way to me, here, you, whom I made new. Come here, child, come be pearl, come be beautiful feather.
Mm.
Aho.
Oh.
So all of this is saying that we are coming anew, realizing Deb Haaland's confirmation will definitely lift us up. And I'm sure it's all legible to everyone who hears this from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes?